trying to get everything organized. Geez, I'm going to tell you something. I am extremely tired. I don't know why. I went down the road today and I had to go to High Fort, which is about 25 miles from here. And I didn't think I was going to make it back. I'm just so freaking tired. It's like, oh my gosh. And literally, I was trying to slap my face and never doing anything else to stay awake. I was out just, I couldn't stay in my lanes. I was just having difficulty. I'm so glad there was not a lot of traffic around because it was absolutely a nightmare. So, yeah. So how's your day been? Oh my gosh, y'all. Jeez. So yes, we've had some major things today. The first thing is it's a landmark achievement for peace by the Trump administration today. He signed a peace deal in Sharm el Sheikh, Egypt, with a lot of other Middle Eastern leaders and leaders from around the world, different ones. And this is a monumental thing, folks. Whether you agree with Trump or not, this will cement his place in the annals of history, particularly around Middle Eastern peace and the role of U.S. leadership in the world. So there's a lot of things we could talk about right there. So yes, and that's one of the things that I've been working on is this program to where we find reasons to celebrate. Yes, and yes, this is a major monumental accomplishment, and he deserves the recognition for that from across the political spectrum from around the world. The role that he is taking is a much more muscular and transactional role that we're seeing from this administration. It's something that should have been done from the very beginning at the end of World War II. The United States at that time was, in fact, the hegemonic world leader. There was no nation on earth that had our power, our resources, and our economy. And we had an opportunity when we pushed for the creation of the United Nations. We had that opportunity in front of us, but yet we refused to do it. We just took the back seat. And every time a little skirmish would show up, and there were major things that we had to deal with, obviously, and not skirmishes like Korea and Vietnam and different things like that just came up along the way. But we jumped into the middle of those things when we should have been leading in a different way. We should have been fulfilling our role as a hegemonic world power, and we didn't. We abdicated that role, thinking that the United Nations would pick it up. Well, they didn't. And they couldn't. They didn't have our power, our resources, our ability to lead the world and shape its direction. And whether you agree with Trump or not, that's what he has been doing on the world stage, even within the United States. But he has taken on the world stage. He has been very muscular about it. He's been very transactional about it. He's done everything he possibly can to regain some of that hegemonic authority that the United States has abdicated for the past 70 years. And he has wielded that quite effectively. He knows how to get world leaders on board with his plan, and he's not afraid to call them out if they get out of line. It's pretty obvious that he will do that. And that's where we should have been for the past 70 years, but we abdicated that role thinking that everybody else would pick it up. And no, they wouldn't. So we created a mess that we had to get out of, and Trump has done an exceptional job of doing just that. Now, the S part, the other part of this, yes, and yes, this is a great accomplishment, well worthy of going down in the annals of history as something that will be talked about for generations to come, especially if we can get Hamas to not take up arms, or at least lay down their arms, and then abdicate from power, get out of there, because Hamas is a terrorist organization. I don't give a damn what you think about that. The Palestinian people know that's a different thing altogether. Hamas is a terrorist organization whose sole goal in life, from the very beginning of their creation, has been the elimination, destruction of Israel and Jewish people. But it's not just that. That ideology, that thinking, goes back to the very foundations of Islam itself. And prior to that, it was there in 1200 BC. People hating on the Israelis and the Jewish people and the Jewish state. Because They were perceived as being God's chosen. But the thing is, we have allowed this kind of thinking to permeate our own society. There are groups within the United States, for instance, and Nick Fuentes, that young kid, the young kid who is just really needs help. He really does need help. Oh my God. But anyway, we've allowed a lot of this stuff to happen. We haven't taken a stand against it. Now, on the global stage, what Trump has done is exactly that. He's finally doing something that actually restores some of the hegemonic authority that we abdicated. And I know people don't like what I have to say. I don't give a fuck. Literally, I don't. I don't. I don't. Study history, not just history. You can't just be a person who rattles off history, rattles it off as if it's some chronology that you know. But it's the broad sweeps of history too that have an impact on all of this, and the trends and patterns that emerge over time and that keep reemerging and rhyming in different ways. So sure, what Trump has accomplished today is a major thing, not just for peace in the Middle East, if it can be maintained. It's maintaining it is a difficult thing. It really is. You got to get that organization set up that's going to oversee the Gaza Strip and peace in that Gaza Strip with all the leaders from different places, from Europe to the Middle East. They all must be involved in this management process, every single one of them. And the funds must be there to rebuild Gaza. And that's the transactional part that is Trump. He sees it as a means to, we can make some money now and actually improve things for everybody there at the same time. We want to give them, high-rise buildings that they can't afford to rent in. Yeah, he's going to gentrify the whole darn place, but whatever. At least we got a peace deal, folks. Now, the other part of that, the other side of that, and you can hold two things in your mind at once, can't you? Are we not capable of doing that? The world is not black and white. Do you think the world is really black and white? If you're a trans person, you know damn well that's not the case, right? Yeah, you do. You know that. So the world is not black and white. What Trump has done in the Middle East is a good thing. It's got to be maintained. It's going to take a lot of transactional stuff must take place to make this work, but it can be done now. Whereas just a few days ago, it was impossible. Everybody was saying it's impossible to do that. You had European nations and you had Canada all making statements about supporting a two-state solution in Gaza, but that is not going to work either. It was never going to work. That was an appeasement to Hamas, folks. That was just appeasement to Hamas. Give them time to regroup because their goal is and has always been the destruction of Israel, no matter how many Palestinians die in the process. They don't care. That ideology does not care about human life at all. Their goal is the destruction of Israel and Jewish people. That's it. That is it. You cannot negotiate with terrorists. You can try, but you're wasting your time. The way Trump did it, envelopment. This is an envelopment. Military people ought to know what this means. An envelopment tactic. Okay, basically what you do is, and that's tactics I've used on personal things and the organizations I wanted to reach out to. So what you do is you start making friends with everybody around that group that you're trying to influence. Go into Turkey and parts of Syria and Iraq. You go into Saudi Arabia. You go into Bahrain and United Arab Emirates and Qatar, and you go into all these surrounding states that have effectively been the support by not support kind of mechanism for this whole thing all along. Well, you go in and win them over to this idea that all together we can fix this thing, and then you show them that you mean it. So the part that makes Trump unique in this is that when Netanyahu decided to bomb a place in Qatar. He was called to the carpet in the White House over it. Can you imagine another world leader being called to the White House basically and said, you were wrong to do that. You better apologize right now to these people because what you did was undercut the plan that we have. But at the same time, though, see, Trump knows how to use that to his advantage, too. He took that and said, look, these other nations around here, I'm not afraid to call Netanyahu in the office and chew him out either and make him apologize for something that he did that was wrong, but we're going to use it to our advantage here. So he did. That brought on board all these other people around him, all these other countries around him, so that they would force the issue with Hamas and be part of the process of recovery and rebuilding in the Gaza Strip. That is an unprecedented way to achieve peace in an area that it worked. Can it be done in Ukraine with Russia? I don't know. That's a bigger border. Russia's got the full border all the way up to the Arctic Ocean. All right. So, yeah, it's a little bit different story, but it might work, though. I mean, if you can get China to do things, you get, to get all these other countries to do things and realize that the United States is serious, sure, you might be able to pull off a peace in Ukraine. You might be able to do it. The world is now seeing that Trump is capable of doing that on the global stage. So what is it that I'd hold out the reservation of and say, no, we're not going to talk about this with Trump, or we're not going to talk about it, but that we are going to call it what it is. Trump is also a freaking idiot when it comes to human rights regarding trans people. He has enabled the hatred, the bigotry, the attacks, the claiming that these people are less than and not human enough, and dehumanizing them and disenfranchising transgender Americans, dehumanizing them to the point that they are getting pissed about all of this. They are hurt by it, harmed by it. They're causing other things to happen, and they're instigating trouble from within our own community. So we have got to be strong enough to put an end to this kind of thing. We can't be the ones to fall for that kind of tactic. That's from Heritage Foundation. That's from Trump. That's from Dan Scavino or whatever his name's, Scavino. That's that whole bunch of people over there. And they have a goal in mind, and that's the complete removal of LGBT people, not just trans, but the entire community. If you go over on Twitter right now, go to x.com. It may be that the algorithm is tagging me and a lot of this stuff, but right now, trans people are just being attacked for existing. And the argument that's being made is this. You're just a man or you're just a woman. Well, look, how are you defining that? Is that chromosomal sex, or is that anatomical sex, or is that gender, or what? And they'll go, no, you're just a man or a woman. See, they don't want to have that conversation around those different aspects of what it means to be me. They see me as just the result of chromosomes and whatever was observed at birth. That's all that matters to them. From my perspective and from the entire trans community's perspective, for the most part anyway, it's a gender thing, right? We are not focused on the XY part. We know the XY part. We know the XX part. We know the different permutations that can occur and the variances that can occur within disorders of sex development and gender incongruence and all those things. We know those things. We know the physical aspect of it, the physical part of it. We got it. But that's not who we are. And that's where we have failed. And that's what Trump has played upon to his advantage. He has taken that little thing right there, and so has the Heritage Foundation and all these Twitter bots over there who are going after me every time I open my mouth. That I open my mouth a lot on X. I invite a lot of conversations on X. We've had some long-running conversations with people, and to give you an example, lots of people who come after me, they'll go, so you're saying that you're just a man? And I say, look, let me say this again for the people on the slow bus, I've said this a dozen times already here in this thread and in adjacent threads to this line of thinking. Here it is. Let me tell you again. You see everything that has to do with sex from the chromosomal side of things, genetic side of things, and what you observed at birth. That's the only part that you recognize. And I don't have a problem with being identified in that way at all. We need to admit the truth and move forward, folks, rather than running from it and pretending it's not true. That's the problem that we have enabled. Rather than letting people go, if somebody comes back to me and says, chromosomally, you're a male. If you have XY genes, then you're a male. And I go, yes, and I'm still female. Anatomically female, gender is female, gender identity is female, gender expression is female. So why are you stuck on just one part of that whole conversation? It's because they don't want to admit that we've moved beyond just that strict little single synonymous way of describing sex and gender. But we have to claim that back. We've got to be willing to take it back to them and say, look, yes, and so what? You think you're trying to, you think I'm offended by that? No, I know who I am. Don't you know who you are? Or do you have the courage to admit who you are? Let me pull up a blog post over here. I'm going to get off this other one. I had Trump's thing pulled up on the page. Do this and find this post. Let me get it out here for you. So go to the website, go to the blog section. And where'd it go? It's still right there. All right. Go right there to that website, Cassandra-LLC.com. That is a for-profit corporation, a limited liability corporation in the state of Kentucky with an actual federal EIN associated with it, just in case the people down in Tejas need to know all of that. Secretary of State people down in Texas and the Attorney General's office down in Texas. Here we are. Do I need to register as a foreign corporation to set up that trans-terrorist cell down in your state? Because, you know, Lord, lo and behold, I come down there and I do it all wrong, right? Because I need you to know that here we are. But anyway, and along with Pam Bondi and all the people over at the IRS and everywhere else. So let me go down here and find the post that I want. Here's the one. This is the title of this post, this blog post over on the website. You need to check it out. It is, yes, and a new manifesto for our truth. Let me pull it up. And then we're going to share this. We'll share a screen. I'm going to go through this line by line, because this is crucial. This is where we have failed. These conversations from people over there who aren't consumed by genetic sex being the only identifier that can possibly ever exist. And I know a lot of people are saying, don't care about the gender part of it at all. I know they don't care about that. But if we go around going, the other side is not true. You're not right. That is wrong. That is so wrong. And how dare you use the wrong pronoun? Or if I'm coming through your line and I look like a damn idiot, and then you can't figure out how to address me, then I'm going to be all upset about it if you don't get it right. No, that is so full of childish bullshit. All right, so here, share page. Send me your share page. Wait a minute, what was that all about? I'm going to stop sharing just for a second. That's something I needed to look at. Give me a minute there. There was something on that little selection screen that I needed to hit. Also share tab audio. Oh, look. Huh. I could have been doing that a while. Okay, let me go over here. Also share audio. Yes, we're going to do that. Share. I didn't know that option was down there. Learned something new today. What do you know? Okay. Share. Is it sharing the screen? Oh, I got to select the screen. Share. Now I will. Oh my God. Okay. So here you go, folks. I'm going to pull this thing up here and let's see if it plays this one. What does it do? I serve for all Americans, by the way. If you're a veteran and you didn't serve for all Americans, well, you probably are failing at reading what that thing was you signed up to and agreed to when you went in. Sure as hell enough, right? So anyway, so this is the new manifesto. It is yes and. That's the theme. That's what we need to be focusing on as a trans community, as a non-binary community, as a gender non-conforming community. This is where we have failed. We have failed to admit that we are in fact chromosomal sex identified in one way, but that's not the whole story, is it? We know it's not the whole story. The difficulty we run into from people over on the blogosphere, Twitter sphere, megasphere, or manosphere, wherever you might be, the challenge we face is that people are always going, but so you're just a male? And I'm going to go, yes, and I'm also female. Gender and anatomy. And I've taken enough hormones that everything inside me ought to be turned upside down anyway. But yeah, you know, and probably is. I don't know. But I do know this. That yes, genetically, I'm XY. There have been no other complaints, no other issues about that. No one has pointed it out to me. No one over Ancestry has mentioned it or discussed it with me. Nothing else like that. And I have a son and 3 daughters, all of whom are very amazing, truly awesome human beings. In other words, they aren't assholes like a bunch of people think they ought to be to. So where do you think my son got that Y from? They got it from me. Where do you think my daughter's got that extra X from? They got it from me. Yeah, chromosomally. So, yes, and the new manifesto. Play this again. That's just, I just like it. Hey, look, I'm going to tell you something. While I'm stuck right here, if you aren't keeping up with AI, you're going to fall behind fast. 6 months ago, AI was not able to do a lot of this stuff right here that I just called it up and asked it to do. AI was not capable of doing it. It was very blocky. It's very mechanical. A lot of the interactions were computer interactions. Computer, you could tell. But it has changed in 6 months' time, and it will change and it will accelerate exponentially. The stuff coming out of AI and its capabilities and influence, what you think you know right now, it's growing exponentially. Next week, you won't even recognize how far along it has come. It's almost at the point where it can generate its own movies now. And that's from the X AI system. I'm sure the others can too. Complete whole movies. I can already go in and create one scene at a time. Scene here, scene there, piece it together, make a short little movie out of it all. It can be done easy these days. And you're going, well, what about the people who are professionals? They're going to lose their jobs. They better learn something else. They better learn something fast. They better get on board because they're going to be left behind. Every new technology, every new method that comes along, guess what happens? People have to adapt or they die. And this one will be so fast that it will be breathtaking. And to think that there are people who want to stop it, who think we ought to legislate against it here in the United States, yeah, Matt Walsh is one of them, the theocratic fascist. He calls himself that. Don't come after me over. That's what he calls himself. But he's saying, slow down. We don't want any of that stuff. We got to legislate against it. But Matt, I can tell you right now, somebody somewhere in this world will continue advancing it to the point where whatever we legislate against, they will run over that and we will be left in the dust. We will be left in the dust. And when it comes to war fighting and our militaries and our technologies to be able to compete militarily and economically on the global stage, if you aren't up on AI and you aren't pushing to learn more and to keep up with it, you will fail. This is going to be the global equalizer like nothing you have ever seen before, AI systems. It will equalize things around this world in ways that you have no freaking ability to see where it's going to go. So this right here, let me get back to this though. That was my little bit of 2 cents, 2.5 cents. I only charge 3 cents for a 2.5 cent piece. Okay. All right. So here we go. This first part, for too long. I'm going to read this to you. I want this on the record as a part that's been read right here. For too long, we have been on the defensive. We, transgender Americans and our siblings around the world, have found ourselves in a place of constant reaction, forced to argue for our own existence against a narrative that isn't ours. Our detractors have been relentless, claiming manhood or womanhood that we deny the truth of our biology. They have successfully framed the debate as a simple yet false binary. You are either your chromosomes or you are delusional. How many times have we heard that? It's easy to push back against that. If you were born with certain anatomy, they say, you are that and only that forever. Sit there for just a second before I read further. What that tells me, a person was born with a congenital heart disease, like a hole in their heart. How dare we go in and make surgical corrections to that? That's the way they were born. If a person had a cleft lip, split up in through here pretty bad, it was all up inside the palate, how dare we give them the surgical tools to fix that, to give doctors the tools, the knowledge, and all of that to go in and address that for them, to make them fit in better. How about webbed fingers or hands misplaced, too many fingers, conjoined twins, all of these kind of things? How dare we go in and use our knowledge and fix those things, right? Well, for me personally, even though my chromosomal sex is XY male, my gender was female. Completely. Gender identity was female. Gender expression is female. The gender incongruence was so great that the way to fix it was do medically necessary and appropriate care to do so. So I've adjusted my hormones, I've adjusted my body completely, so that my anatomical sex, now this, all transgender people don't have to do these things. It's whatever you think you have to do for yourself, because gender is that way, right? It's something you get to have a say in. You get to have a say in how you wish to express your gender to the world. It's not the other way around. The world doesn't get to tell you what that is. Our detractors, wait a minute, that's on down the bottom, isn't it? And how have we responded? We have fallen into their trap by focusing solely on our gender identity. We focus so much on that that's all that they think that we know about. They, on the other end, have focused on that genetic part, the biological part of that, the chromosomal sex, claiming that's the only thing that matters. They're two parts of the same coin, folks. They're one side of here. It's Janussian. You know what Janussian is? Y'all know what Janussian is? Do you know what Janussian is? Janus, Roman god of war, multiple faces. Anyway, our identities are the same way. So you do have a genetic component to it, but on the other side of that, you do have an anatomical side of that. And another face of that, you have a reproductive side of that. And on another side of that, you got the foundational gender, which is created in the brain, but it's a very, it's hormonal influencing in the fetal brain. Check it out, it's there. Happens in the second trimester, so in utero. So all of those things are just different sides of the same coin, folks. And it's a multifaceted thing. It's a Janussian thing. It's got multiple sides. They're all part of the same thing. It's a different perspective on the same thing. And I've got an image somewhere that would actually show that perspective. Let me show, well, remind me in a second. I'll bring it back up. But anyway, fall into their trap by focusing solely on gender identity. We have allowed them to accuse us of denying our biological reality. Haven't you done that? I mean, haven't they told you that? They've told me that. The thing is, I haven't denied my biological reality whatsoever. It's just another part of who I am. That's only one part of who I am. The rest of it is, I have had the surgeries to fix everything to make it all work well, and I've spent a lot for this Ferrari, and to thank God for that, right? Because Ferrari works great, by the way. None of you will ever figure that out or find out whether it's true or not either. Not ever. So, but they claim that we have denied biological reality. Now, look, it looks like that to them, doesn't it? Walk a minute in their shoes. That's what it looks like to them. That's exactly what it looks like to them. It looks like we are denying biological reality. And are we? No. It's just not the part we focus on. It's the part they focus on. Come on. Oh my gosh. Yeah, okay. So they see us only through the lens of genes and birth anatomy. We see ourselves through the lens of gender as this division, and it is time for that to end. The time for being on the defensive is over. The time for arguing on their terms is over. The time has come to take back control of our own narrative, not by denying any part of our truth, but by claiming all of it. So I propose a new path forward, a new way of speaking our truth. It starts with two simple words: yes and. Here we go. Yes, I have XY chromosomes, and I am a woman. Yes, I have XX chromosomes, and I am a man. Yes, my biology at birth was recorded as male. And my gender, my identity, my lived reality is female. This and is the most powerful because it holds the entirety of our lives. In my identity, it's in the flower on my hands. And this is something I wrote the other because I finished making a apple stack cake. No, that day I was making gravy, biscuits and gravy. It was a Sunday morning, making biscuits and gravy and frying up some bacon for us to have for breakfast here. Because I do caregive for my mom, brother, and sister, and I love that food myself too. So I had all this stuff on my hands, all the flour and everything. It's the familiar comfort of breakfast Sunday, or Sunday breakfast. It's in the quiet hum of the dryer as I fold the laundry. That's what I had to say about it. Okay, caregiving. These moments of simple, undeniable humanity are what our detractors want to erase. They don't want to hear those little stories like that, folks. I'm going to hold this thing up a little higher. See, this is it's called a blue ball, but it's white. I've got a black one in the closet. But anyway, yeah, this microphone's pretty darn good. It's very omnidirectional. But anyway, so yeah. And that is why the and must continue. Yes, I live this full, ordinary, beautiful life, and I will relentlessly take my truth all the way to the Ken Paxton's door and Pam Bondi and, yes, Matt Walsh, Seaman Apprentice Ronnie Jackson. I'm calling, for those of you who know who Ronnie Jackson is, he's an admiral in the Navy who called for our institutionalization several weeks ago, right after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. He blamed it on all of us and asked the FBI, along with Nancy Macy, they asked the FBI to find out ways to incarcerate us. Yes, like that. Is that better? Anyway, so I make my point by this thing. Pick it up, go, hey, look, listen to me here. I might be talking to you from up in the holler, but guess what? So anyway, on down through here, when they demand we explain ourselves, here we go. This is the part that you need to grasp quickly, okay? Because this is how you win it back. And you do it with a little bit of satire and humor. You throw all that stuff in there. You don't let them drag you down under the bus, folks. Come on. But we have a tendency to put ourselves in places where the bus gets an opportunity to run over us and then back up and do it again. So, yeah. That one you can figure out for yourself, right? When they demand we explain ourselves, we must forcefully and clearly ask them to define their terms. Most of them won't, by the way. I've asked repeatedly ad nauseum. It's like, can you tell me that you're just talking about genetic sex, right? Or chromosomal sex, right? Because once I can get them to admit that part, then they must also concede that there is an anatomical sex expression too. And then once you get that, the next step is, hey, look, yeah, there's a gender. It comes along with it's social, and it's also part of who we are as a person internally. It's our sense of self. It's part and parcel of who we are. So you can get that far along, then you've won that argument, folks. You've won it. We don't need to be focusing on all the X's and Y's. We don't need to be doing tic-tac-toe with them on all this board, because there are some really smart people out there who do know a lot about chromosomal sex and all of the differences of sex development, the DSDs. There are some really smart people out there. Quite a few of them are over on X. Their problem is, and this is the challenge that they have that they've got to figure out how to address for themselves, is that they start and end the conversation about chromosomal sex with their ideological positions of attacking gender. But their conversation is about chromosomal sex. I know there's a person over there who's going to be writing a book all about differences of sex development. And his focus will be, but gender is the same way. It's just binary. It's actually the same thing as sex and all this kind of stuff. And we're going to tell him, your book is full of shit. Book is full of shit. I mean, it's got some good stuff. Don't get me wrong. But the ideological part is the part that messes up the whole bit of the science that he knows so well. Phew. Okay. Are they talking about chromosomal sex, the genetic blueprint, a scientific fact of our being, which we do not deny? Anatomical sex expression, the physical body we are born with, also part of our story. Gender identity, profound intrinsic sense of truth of who we are. Every person, here's the thing, every person has a gender identity. For 99.4% of human populations worldwide, that gender identity aligns with their chromosomal sex, their genetic sex, and their anatomical sex. Fine. But there's still those of us who it doesn't apply to. Thank you very much. Our truth encompasses all three. By saying yes, and we refuse to be trapped. Our gender identity is not in spite of our biology. It is a distinct and equally valid aspect of humanity. And this is the Genesian part right there. This is not a conversation for one person to have alone. It's for the entire community. We need to be having this conversation. So I want to have some more meetings with a bunch of people. Bring in your friends. Go over on Twix. Thinking about sweets. No, I'm tired. Go over on X and Twitter. I put Twix together. That's what X and Twitter is. It's Twix. Got it. Yeah, go to Twix, Twitter X. Round people up. Bring them in. Let's have a conversation. Let's see what the comment is down here. Can I see the comment? It's loading. It's loading. I don't know if it loaded or not. Let me pull up one more thing. I'm going to stop sharing over here. And there. Go back to here with me on the main screen. And I've been talking for 39 minutes. You've got to be freaking kidding me. Let me go ahead and pull up something here. I'm getting out of this. And where are my terrorist photos? See, I have a folder that's called terrorist photos. It's me and family and things like that. And this is my terrorist photos. I have to have a terrorist photo because photo page, a photo album. Let's see if I can find what I'm looking for. Is it in this? Where did it go? No, it's not there. We go back to here. I'm looking for it. Anyway, I'll find it and let you know about it. What it is basically is it's one person's truth is actually only part of it. And I need to start using that too. Whenever if you have this image and all you see is a square shape in front of you and you say, this is the world, this is the truth. And it turns out it's just a cylinder turned sideways. If you look at the cylinder down the length of the cylinder, you'll see that it's a round thing. rounded long wise. It's cylinder. The shadows form different shapes on the walls and on the shadows on the walls that you see. One person's truth is just a different way of representing the same thing on another screen over here. And I know I've got that darn thing somewhere. Where is it? Photos, photos, desktop photos. Is that where it is? I put everything else in it. I don't know. I'll find it later. I needed to have it up anyway. So that's what we're looking at today, folks. We need to start focusing on yes and. Stop being afraid of our truth. Stop being afraid of who you are. Long thoughts. Yeah, I had a lot. Yeah. Junior, thank you so much. Yes, yes, indeed. Okay. I had a long conversation with a lot of bots. And even some of those bots said I'm not a bot, which is not surprising. Oh my God, what's this one all about? They don't want to admit that they just fetishize and sexualize anything that appears feminine. That's true too. Oh, that's true. It's really on them about how they go about dealing with people like us because they don't want to know. They don't want us to know that they actually sexualize us. I know that too. That is so true. They fantasize about us. Why else do you think men slow down and take a look? You know, they just stare. And I'm going, that's your wife, you idiot. Stop it. Up here. Let me see. Matt Walsh, it's just a bigot, plain and simple. He just says that theocratic whatever the heck to try to instill fear into whoever he's debating against to throw them off. Yeah, that's true. Janis Joplin, not quite sure what that one was about. Yeah, it's down in the holler, not up in the holler. Well, no, look. I've got my holler goes both ways. See, my holler here goes both ways, Junior. My holler goes down the holler that way, and if I'm going down the holler, then I'd have to be up the other end of the holler going down the holler. If I'm down the holler and coming up, okay. Thank you, John. Thank you, Junior.